Is the media just bored with Georgia at this point? From the outside looking in, it's starting to feel like it, if I'm being honest. Because for a program that's won the last two SEC championships, is consistently making it to the college football playoff, and according to the SEC media themselves, they think they're the favorite to win the SEC championship this year. They're not getting as much love as I would expect a normal team with that high of expectations and that high of a ceiling to be able to get. Why do you think this is occurring first? I have my theory on why this is happening, but if you're a Georgia fan or just a college football fan in general, why do you think Georgia is not being talked about as much as it seems like they should be based off of how good they're going to be? My theory is there are way too many other more glamorous topics and players to talk about in college football than Georgia is offering right now. You look around at the Big Ten versus the SEC conversation. Yeah, Georgia's a little bit of a piece in that, but really the conversation's around Curt Cignetti and Ryan Day and the Big Ten and how they have just surpassed the SEC in winning national championships over the last 3 years. You do have the Curt Cignetti story as well of how he took Indiana from nothing to national championship in 2 years. In the SEC alone, you've got Texas dominating the headlines with Arch Manning questions and Steve Sarkisian, and is it national championship or bust for Texas this year? And if they bust, does that mean that Steve Sarkisian's out of a job? What does it mean if Arch Manning doesn't play up to his standard? Look at the roster they had. There's no way they can't lose. And even if it wasn't Texas, then we still have LSU and Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin making the move to LSU. Ole Miss is now suing players at LSU. Lane Kiffin's, throwing shade back at Ole Miss and saying all that he did with the recruiting stuff. The headlines are not, let's put it this way, Georgia's not dominating the headlines. And I think that's okay, according to Kirby Smart. I think he's okay with flying under the radar a little bit right now. So what you don't have is the glamorous headline or even the glamorous players, right? You don't have a Jeremiah Smith, you don't have an Arch Manning or a Malachi Toney, somebody that the media is just absolutely in love with. But I tell you what you do have, and this is why I don't think the lack of media coverage is warranted. Because what you do have is a top 5 O-line in the country, and that's being generous to other O-lines. I really think you're top 3, top 2 in the country right now. You've got Drew Bobo coming back. You got 3 of your 5 returning offensive linemen were returning starters from last year. So, yeah, there's a couple pieces you're just going to want to make sure are plugging in well. But I don't really have any questions about you up front or in the trenches on either side of the ball. You also are going to have Nate Frazier returning as running back. And this is an offense that averaged 182 yards per game on the ground last year. And on top of having your returning running back, on top of having such a good offensive line, you got Gunnar Stockton coming back for another year as well, which is going to be huge. We already saw him develop pretty well getting towards the end of the season last year. The thought is, and the theory is, that over an offseason with another year of playing experience, a guy like Gunnar Stockton, who's already dangerous with his legs, if he can just get deadly accurate with his arm, he doesn't have to be able to bomb the ball 50 or 60 yards downfield. If he can just hit guys in the hands, hit them in stride, Georgia can be one of the most dangerous teams in the country. They can be the most dangerous team in the country. And that's just on the offensive side of the ball. I haven't even touched on this defense. And the defense itself it's loaded. They're returning a loaded defense. 8 of the 11 starters from last year are returning for this year, which puts them at top 5 in returning production, or I think number 5 in returning production for this year on defense, for a defense that was already number 4 in overall rush defense last year. It's just, I'm so high on what Georgia can be and what I believe they will be this year. A lot of that is going to hinge on how good this defense is, how just, let's jump into it a little more. You had the number 4 rush defense last year. I don't see that dropping off at all. I think Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann, they've figured out the run game pretty well. You did lack a little bit more in the defensive backfield, and you had a lot of explosive plays that were hit on you. Now, you do have KJ Bolden and Ellis Robinson coming back, and I think they're back for vengeance. I think they're back for blood. They got tore up a little bit in the postseason last year and late in the season last year. I think they're going to come back and they're going to be, yes, developed. Kirby and Schumann, they're going to develop defensive players, whether they're the front 7 or in the defensive backfield. They're going to come back and they're going to be better than they were last year. And that's a dangerous, dangerous thing for all teams in college football, but especially for teams in the SEC. Because Georgia's already run the show the last couple years in what Georgia fans would consider down years as a program. They've still won the SEC championship both times. What happens whenever they peak? Kirby can get Georgia peaking at the right time, but what happens when they just have a peak team peaking at the right time? That's why I just don't think that we're giving Georgia enough love. As an entirety, I'm not a part of the media, but like as a national media core, Georgia's not getting the love they deserve, and that's just because they don't have the good stories to go along it yet. But again, I think Kirby's going to welcome that, because if you don't have all eyes on you right now, that means you can work a little bit in silence. But he knows come November, December, towards the postseason, all eyes are going to be on that Block G. So for right now, let's just fly under the radar while we can. So that's what you do have. Here's where the question marks are for Georgia and why I think maybe they're not getting all of the love that they should. Number one, the biggest question mark I think on your team is just at wide receiver. And that's seemingly been the question mark on your team for the last handful of years. Like, nobody's really emerged themselves at receiver specifically. You had like Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, and yes, they were your targets, but they didn't have a great 2 or 3 behind them at receiver. Here's what I think goes overlooked in that period of time. Would you be surprised if I told you that Georgia, since 2019, is tied for first in wide receivers drafted in the NFL draft, and they're tied with LSU and Ohio State? I was surprised whenever I heard that, but whenever you look at it, Georgia's got great players out wide. They got a bunch of solid guys that if you throw in the ball and you get it within their window, they're going to catch it. They're just not, they haven't been the explosive offense where you've got a guy like a Jeremiah Smith or like a Malachi Tony who's taking your top off, once a game for an 80-yard bomb. They haven't had that. But maybe they have one of the guys in their receiving core this year who may be able to become that true X receiver. They did get Isaiah Canyon in from Georgia Tech, London Humphreys coming back for his senior year. They've got some opportunity there. I don't know if they need to have the most elite wide receiver play to win, though. This pairs into the other question, the only other question I have about the team, and that is your offensive explosiveness. It just has not been there, and it hasn't really been there over the last couple of years. You do have Gunnar Stockton returning, so that answers the question of, can you get that explosiveness back, or can you get that explosiveness into your offense? I really do think Gunnar Stockton is going to take that next step this year and develop further, and you're going to get the explosive element not only from his legs, but from his arm. Secondly, offensive line is everything on explosive plays, because we're not just talking about in the pass game, we have to talk about in the run game as well, getting those explosive runs. The pairing of O-line and Nate Frazier coming back, I think you're going to be a lot more explosive than you have been over the last couple of years. So on the offensive side, if you can answer those questions and become more multiple in your offensive play, I don't see a weakness on this team. And that's why I don't think Georgia's just getting the love that they deserve in the media going into the season, but I don't think that lasts long. Like I said, I think November, December, once we get later in the season, people realize how good this Georgia team is. They're going to pull out a couple of wins that I don't think are going to surprise people, but they're going to win the games they're supposed to win. Once we get to that point in the year, all eyes are going to be on Georgia, and we're going to be talking about them a lot more going into the postseason. Let me know what you think about Georgia as we head into the season. Do you think they're being overlooked by the media like I do? If you are a college football fan, if you're a Georgia fan, please make sure you like the video and subscribe. We're on the road to 500 subscribers before the beginning of the college football season. It is a lofty goal. It's a mammoth goal that I've set for the channel. But if I know one thing about college football fans, it's that we love our teams, we love our college football, and we want to watch content like this. So please make sure you like and subscribe, and we will catch you next time here on the Saturday Report.